Hey, what's going on, everyone? How you guys doing? My name is Matt Jarbo. Welcome back to Three Buck Theater, and today I wanted to review the very first episode of the new batch of Unsolved Mysteries that has now come to Netflix yesterday on the 1st of July. They dropped the first volume, which was 6 episodes. Far too little, in my opinion, far too little, but I wanted to talk about my thoughts concerning the first couple of them. So I'm going to be doing reviews as I watch them. And so I caught the first episode last night, which was titled Mystery on the Rooftop. And this is all about the story of Rey Rivera, who back in Baltimore, Maryland in May 2006, mysteriously vanished from his home in Baltimore. His wife was out of town. His wife was on a business trip a few hours away. They had a colleague staying at the house at the time. She overheard Rey get a phone call, and then he rushed out of the house in nothing more than just a pair of, like, I guess you could say track pants and flip-flops. And he was not heard from or seen again for the next 8 days until they randomly discovered that there was a hole in the roof of the Belvedere Hotel in downtown Baltimore. When they went into the conference center, which is where this hole would have been located, that is when they found basically the destroyed body of Rey Rivera. And he had been there for a few days. It clearly wasn't that good of a sight. And his wife, Allison, was absolutely devastated, but she hit the ground running and was trying to do everything she could to find out what happened, why he was there, and why he's dead. And here's the weird thing. During the course of the investigation, the medical examiner did not determine it a homicide or a suicide, said that it was undetermined. And even the cops labeled it a suicide and have almost refused to follow up on it, going as far as to reassign the detective who was leading the investigation at the time to something with an FBI task force. He was pulled off mid-investigation. And at that point, the follow-up people were like, just deal with it. He's dead. So the episode itself, for one, let me just quickly point out that it's different than what we remember Unsolved Mysteries to be. It doesn't have the theme song running all the way through it. It does have a somber music track, but it's not as ever present as the originals were, because this is like a 50-minute documentary that's telling one whole story versus trying to rush through, I think, about 4 or 5 segments in the given hour period. So they have a lot more time to breathe and a lot more time to tell the story, which, look, in some cases makes a lot of sense. I don't think this episode needed to be 55 minutes. I think it was fascinating when they started kind of talking about what's going on, especially when the guy Porter Stansberry came up in the conversation. Now, Porter was Rey's high school friend and his boss. They'd actually left Southern California, where Rey wanted to be a filmmaker, to move back to Baltimore after, LA didn't work out for him. And I can relate to that, being as I left LA after a couple of years to go back to San Diego, and now I live in Washington. And they moved back for his friend, for a job, and something to do with stocks, I think. And that was all they really said. They hinted at Porter having some kind of involvement, mostly because the last phone call that Rey received, came from Porter, or something in regards to Porter's company, like a switchboard at the building. And then also he refused to be interviewed, and he's refused to talk to cops, and he's refused any and all involvement in trying to solve the either the death or the homicide of his friend, which to me is super telling. But then again, this is a documentary. They are going to sway towards who they think might be the most guilty party, or at least have the most information to give. That being said, this episode was really good. I thought it was really interesting, really well done. I like the drone footage. I thought that worked really well with the hotel itself. It was creepy as hell that somehow Rey was able to get to. Okay, here's what I don't get. He was able to navigate through this hotel, which is a condominiums place. So it's open. People can walk in, but there's security cameras. The security camera on the roof somehow, magically, mysteriously, was out of order that night. No one has any video footage of him entering into the hotel. And apparently he made it to the roof by going through a back series of entryways and almost like catacomb-like walkways in order to get up there. And then to somehow find himself jumping off of this particular building to land 40 feet away on top of this rooftop and fall through metal and everything else. So the way that the show described it was they talked about it from like jumping off the roof and him needing to clear 40 feet. But the roof does kind of come out into this like kind of bracket shaped design. And I'm wondering if it was like one or the other, but he was running in flip-flops, which is difficult to do because they weren't like high quality flip-flops. In fact, they found the flip-flops. One of them was busted. One of them appeared to have drag marks, which who knows what that's from. They haven't said anything. They didn't say if they found any of the rubber sole, up on top of the roof, if they found any evidence of that. There was nothing that they mentioned. I'm sure they looked, but that was one of the things I picked up on. And also his cell phone had apparently fallen those 13 floors as well. And it wasn't damaged. The screen wasn't cracked. The phone looked a little bit kind of dinged up, but not much. And his glasses were intact and not scratched up at all. So there's questions on that front, like almost like it was staged. Now, when I was watching this, because they showcased this weird note that he had left taped behind the computer monitor that had a bunch of this kind of like ramble. The cops tried calling it a suicide note, but it looked more just like random thoughts. But he had printed out, folded it, and then taped it to the wall to where like only someone who knew him really could find it. So I still didn't quite get those notes. I didn't quite get what he was trying to say there. I thought it might have been code, but I don't know what the code is for. And I mean, I'm not the only one who thought code. They sent it to the FBI to like get an analysis, and they're like, we have no idea what the hell this is. So that is definitely a mystery, unless there's a codex somewhere that can break this thing, or some kind of notes and email or on the hard drive, which they didn't talk about. And I'm sure after, from 2006 to now, 14 years, probably doesn't exist. This is a weird situation, and I think that Porter Stansberry, his inability to talk, and his and not inability, the fact that he just won't, his refusal to do it, to me comes across and says, yeah, something about this is a little bit wonky. So his wife believes that Rey discovered something that he shouldn't, which resulted in his murder. And that, of course, ties back into the job that he had with dealing with a lot of people's money and financials and whatnot. And honestly, that's what seems to be the most obvious answer, the Occam's razor approach. But if you're not going to get anyone to talk, then you can't figure anything out. And so it was a good way. I mean, the episode, that was kind of the big problem, I think, with these episodes is like, it leaves you with a mystery because it's unsolved. And we're so used to a lot of these shows that have a conclusion at the end, letting you know what happened, right? Giving you that closure. This one didn't have that, and it's okay. It's okay. I was watching it and got to the end, and it just kind of abruptly ended. And I thought to myself, like, well, okay, I'm not as intrigued by it as I think they wanted me to be. It was a good first episode, but it was, possibly one of the weaker ones. The story's fascinating, but it just like what they need to do is the people who are in that hotel would know. People who are on the street outside there would know, and they're hoping that by Netflix talking about this, somebody out there might know something or say something. But I am curious to know what you guys have to think about this one, because these Unsolved Mysteries episodes are going to be really cool, and they're going to be fun to talk about. And of course, it's Netflix related, which is entertainment related, so I can review it over here, which is great. But if you do like this kind of content, if you enjoy true crime content, I also do run a podcast called Carton Mysteries, which is something I've recently started doing on my other YouTube channel. There'll be a link for the most recent episode in the video description. It's available on YouTube, as well as it's going to be available on iTunes. It's a podcast as well. So there's a lot of ways to find it. And if you like true crime, that's a good way to keep talking, because I think, honestly, it's a lot of fun. So let me know your thoughts about this. Let me know your opinions down in the comments below. I will talk to you guys all later. Have yourself a great day. Thank you again for watching. Let's hope Rey Rivera is murder, because I think it's a murder. I think it's a murder. Get solved. And from there, we can move on to more Unsolved Mysteries. All right, everyone. I'll talk to you later. And peace out.